One of the biggest updates during this preseason was the changes that they made to dragons and how dragons affect the map. A lot of these changes might be a little bit confusing for you guys since dragons have not been changed in so long. So today we're going to be going completely in depth on all of the changes that were made to the dragons and what they mean. Keep in mind that we are covering all of the new content during the preseason, so if you haven't already, make sure to check out our other preseason content to know exactly what you're getting into during this preseason.
If you haven't already, consider checking out our website, GameLeap.com. There, we have hundreds of guides all done by challenger players sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. GameLeap.com is the best way to start your climb today. Check us out using the link in the description below.
Now first of all, some of the dragon buffs actually changed in what they give. Mountain now gives armor and magic resist, while Cloud Drake now gives cooldown reduction on your ultimate. This means that these two dragons have kind of changed in their value. Mountain dragons used to be the best in the game, and Cloud Drakes used to be considered one of the worst, but now these are all pretty much equal with the rest of the drakes. One mountain drake or one cloud drake isn't going to make too big of a difference, but if you're able to stack them up and get multiples of them, then just like the other drakes, they're going to be pretty powerful. We also know that the first 3 drakes that spawn in a game are going to be unique. This is actually a really huge deal because before you would prioritize drakes early on if it was a infernal or a mountain because you wanted to get as many mountain or infernal dragons in a game as you could. This is completely different now, however, since the first stack of a drake doesn't give all too much. The first 2 drakes aren't all that strong because you can only get one of them. The drakes that are going to be most powerful to only have one singular stack of are going to be Ocean and Mountain. This is because, just like before, an early Ocean is really good for the laning phase. If the first drake is an Ocean Drake, you're going to want to very heavily contest that, especially now that Ocean procs through combat. Ocean's going to be even stronger if you have any resourceless champions or energy-based champions on your team, like Yasuo, Riven, Zed, or Akali. Since the mana regeneration on Ocean is gone, that will still be a limiting factor for a lot of champions. Once they run out of mana, they're going to have to base. Riven and Yasuo, though, don't ever have to worry about running out of mana, and all they care about is their health and their gold values. If you're playing Shyvana jungle and you have an energy-based assassin like Zed mid with a Riven top, Ocean is going to be your highest priority in the early game. Now, why is Mountain Drake so good early on into the game? This is because of the simple fact that when you have low amounts of armor and magic resist, every point of armor or magic resist that you get is going to be worth more. This means that you might be getting 5 or less armor from the Mountain Dragon, but remember that 5 base armor when added to champions in the laning phase is a huge deal. This is why when you see tuning to champions base armor, it's almost always less than a value of 5. Now, why do we care so much about armor and less about magic resist? This is because when you auto attack during the laning phase, you're going to draw minion aggro, which does physical damage. This Mountain Drake is going to make you take significantly less minion damage during trades, meaning you're going to be having 20, 30 additional health for each trade that you make. This adds up over time, and it can make the difference in a lane. Mountain Drake is also going to be really strong into assassins because lethality only works against low armor targets. Every single point of armor that you have against lethality is that much more effective. If their lethality is making it so that you have effectively 0 armor, then every single point of armor that you have on top of that is going to be a big deal. If you're opting for an early cloth or chain, it's going to be even that much more valuable. For tanks, one single stack of Mountain probably won't be all too noticeable. Singular stacks of Mountain will pretty much only be felt in the laning phase. Okay, but what if Infernal or Cloud are the first drakes to spawn? This means you can't get additional stacks of Infernal or Cloud, so should you even go for them? Remember that early Infernals were so strong in Season 9 because they led to the potential of having multiple Infernals. This is no longer the case, and a single stack of Infernal gives less than what it did in Season 9. If Infernal is the first Drake to spawn, then it's probably not going to be contested all too hard unless you have some sort of champion with an insane AD scaling like Rek'Sai. You're going to need a combined AD scaling of over like 300% in your kit to even feel one singular Infernal Drake, so this is probably the lowest value singular Drake in the game. Cloud Drake is pretty similar in that regard. One single stack of Cloud Drake you probably won't feel at all. The reason behind this is because ultimate CDR is calculated after regular CDR. We can use some simple math to determine how useful this is actually going to be. So if our ultimate is 100 seconds cooldown, and we have 40% CDR, that makes it so that our ultimate is now a 60-second cooldown. If we have 10% ultimate CDR, that doesn't make it so our ultimate is a 50-second cooldown. Instead, it would be a 54-second cooldown. We can see that one stack of Cloud Drake isn't going to be as valuable. However, if we have 4 stacks of Cloud Drake and Ultimate Hunter, suddenly you're getting 65% ultimate cooldown reduction. This paired with 40% normal CDR on a 100-second cooldown would make it so that your ultimate is only a 21-second cooldown. At this point, you're pretty much playing URF. Reducing an ultimate's cooldown from 100 seconds to 20 seconds is insane. Using the same math, if Karthus gets 40% CDR with 4 Cloud Drakes and the Ultimate Hunter rune, his ultimate is going to be on a 32-second cooldown. This means that Karthus could ult you 2 times in a teamfight. This is why, in my opinion, Cloud Drake is the most broken Drake of them all to have 4 stacks of. Yeah, it might be great to run around with a bunch of extra AD or armor or magic resist or a ton of sustain, but none of these can compare to literal URF mode on ultimates. What are you gonna do if you're playing against URF mode Kassadin in normal ranked? Lose. You're probably going to lose. That's what you're probably going to do. Anyways, we got a little bit sidetracked, did a little bit of math. Feel free to check my math on your own, see if I made any errors. It's very possible that I did. I'm not great at math. But hopefully this illustrated the point that the difference between 1 dragon and 4 stacks of dragon is huge this season. If Cloud is one of the first few dragons, then I don't foresee very many people fighting over that. As soon as that 3rd dragon hits though, if it's Cloud, expect there to be a lot of fights around the dragon because people are going to want to get 3 or 4 stacks of that if possible. Moving on, I think the second most powerful dragon to have a bunch of stacks of is going to be Ocean. Now this is a lot in part to the Ocean Dragon's soul being one of the most broken things in the entire game, but just the Ocean regeneration itself without the soul is also really strong. Having that healing tick you up during combat is a huge deal. The more Ocean Dragons you have, the more you're going to be healing even during fights. We'll finish covering souls later on in this video. Right now we're just going to focus on the basic buffs that dragons give. Now the least powerful Drake buffs, in my opinion, are going to be the Infernal and the Mountain Drake buffs. This is because these buffs are just raw stat enhancers. By the time you get to 4 Infernal Drakes, you're probably already overkilling things by a lot, and by the time you get to 4 Mountain Drakes, you're probably already going to be unkillable. This means that unlike Ocean and Cloud Drake, you're not going to be able to capitalize on max stacks. Another thing to keep in mind is that Infernal and Mountain Drake are going to be very, very heavily dependent on the champions that you're playing. For example, if you're playing Malphite or Ornn, and you have 4 stacks of Mountain Drake, then that's going to be insanely strong on you. You have the potential to be walking around with 1,000 armor and nobody's ever going to kill you. If you're playing something like Kassadin or Sona, however, who doesn't really build a lot of armor and has really low base armor, then suddenly this 4 stacks of Mountain Drake not going to be all too effective on you. On the other hand, if you're playing an on-hit based champion like Kog'Maw and you get 4 stacks of Infernal, your damage really won't be all too different. Ocean and Cloud are going to apply to a lot more champions, whereas Infernal and Mountain are going to be much more situational. Now, let's cover these Dragon Souls. What exactly are they? You unlock the Dragon Soul once you have 4 of any dragons. The Dragon Soul that you get will always correspond with whatever map you're playing on. If you're playing on the Ocean Rift, that means you're going to have an Ocean Dragon Soul, which by the way, I think is the most powerful Dragon Soul of them all. Ocean Dragon Soul, again, is so powerful because it heals you during combat. Now, not only does it heal you, but it also heals you an insane amount. Now, if you throw Ocean Dragon Soul on a champion like Hecarim or Olaf, who's going to be taking Conqueror, has some sort of healing in their kit already, and was already a good lifestealer, suddenly you're never going to kill them. Ocean Drake Soul isn't only good on champions that are good lifestealers, however, it's good on pretty much everything because everything does damage. Ocean Dragon Soul opens up a lot of different champions to in-combat sustain that were never intended to have any. Long-range poke mages that are never supposed to have any sort of healing in their kit suddenly have an infinite amount of health. If Soraka gets Ocean Drake Soul and she's able to poke you down, then congrats, you're playing against a walking fountain. That's right, even supports capitalize on the Ocean Drake Soul to its fullest, making it so this soul is going to be way better than the rest of them. Now, next up in strength, I know you didn't see it coming, but it's the Cloud Drake Soul. Cloud Drake Soul is just an increase to your movement speed, so why is that so good? This is because Cloud Drake Soul allows you to sell your boots later on into the game while still having a good amount of movement speed. Remember that Cloud Drake Soul gives 10% additional move speed, but it also gives 30% move speed when you cast your ultimate, and you have the wind tunnels that are played on the Cloud Drake map. When you put all these things together, you're pretty much guaranteed to overcap on movement speed no matter what. This means that late game, you don't need boots if you have the Cloud Drake Soul. Being able to sell your boots without missing out on a ton of movement speed is a huge deal. It allows you to buy an entire additional item. This is going to scale your ultimate even further, and that's right, you've got Cloud Drakes, meaning your ultimate is a lower cooldown as well. Imagine playing against a Karthus with 80% effective CDR on their ults, who doesn't need to buy boots and can buy additional AP instead. Now, this is very situational as you need 4 Cloud Drakes to do it and Ultimate Hunter, but you get the point. Cloud Drake has the potential to be very terrifying, especially in the late game, and the Cloud Drake Soul just plays to that even more heavily. So what about Infernal and Mountain Drake Soul? Infernal Drake Soul is going to be better than Mountain Drake Soul in my opinion because it works on minions, so it's going to give inherent shove to champions that might be lacking any sort of AoE. If you're playing a support that for some reason needs to shove out the side lane, you usually cannot do that, but with the Infernal Drake Soul, suddenly you gain access to some wave clear. In fact, a lot of champions whose main weakness is their wave clear have that completely taken away if you do get the Infernal Drake Soul. I do believe that will be the main use of Infernal Drake's Soul. It's still going to proc in teamfights, which is nice, but that's not really the best part about it. Finally is Mountain Dragon Soul, which again is pretty much only going to be useful in very niche cases. If you already have a few Mountain Drakes, that's probably going to be enough. The regenerating shield is going to be nice if you're playing into assassins, but that's pretty much it. Again, if you're playing as a tank like Malphite or Ornn, and you have a few Mountain Drakes, you're already unkillable. The Drake Soul isn't going to make too much of a difference there. I think that the Mountain Drake Soul is going to be felt the most, first on squishy supports, and second on any carries that are playing into assassins. Finally, let's talk about Eldar Drake. What do I think about the new Eldar Drake? First up, Eldar Drake has the potential to spawn earlier in the game. If one team is dominating, able to take every single Drake as soon as they spawn, they can spawn the Eldar Drake really early on into the game, take it, and take control of the game. I believe that this version of Eldar Drake is going to be a lot more powerful at closing out games. If you mess this up, however, and the enemy team is able to take Eldar Drake from you, then suddenly you're going to be in a pretty sticky situation. This is because Eldar is strong on its own now. It doesn't require additional dragons in order to be strong. This makes it very similar to Baron, where if you throw at Baron and the enemy team gets Baron instead of you, that is a huge swing in power. Because of this, the map is going to be much more balanced later on into the game once both Eldar and Baron have spawned. Baron is going to be used more for objective control, sieging, and that sort of thing, whereas Eldar is going to be made for fighting. Now, because the objectives on the map are so much more balanced, this means that split pushing is not going to be nearly as strong later on into the game, so champions like Jax, Fiora, and Tryndamere won't be as good. I believe that the Eldar Drake is a little bit more powerful than Baron at the moment. Elder Dragon, though, again, will be situational. If you're playing a champion that already overkills things, then you're not going to be feeling it as much as if you're playing a very poke-heavy champion like Xerath, for example. You're going to be wanting Baron late game if your focus is macro play, and you're going to want Elder most likely if your focus is micro and mechanics. A lot is still up in the air, and this is mostly my opinion on the new Drakes. If it turns out things change or some of the Drakes get nerfed, then we might revisit this video later on in the preseason. For now though, that's all that I have for you for today's video on the new Drakes in the preseason. Remember that the preseason is the best time for you to improve your League of Legends gameplay, and what better way to do it than using our website, GameLeap.com. Over on our website, we've got hundreds of guides, all done by challenger players, sorted into a quick and easy to use courses system. Our website should be your #1 stop, especially during the preseason, because we're updating all of our videos to make sure that they are applicable to the current patch. I've checked out a lot of the content on there myself personally, and I can honestly say it is all very high quality. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today using the link in the description below. As always, I'm Panther. I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next one.
Bottom is waiting, seeing your face in the dead of night by my side, but I'm still hesitating.